Ghostly tales, yet mirrors of human life. Hey, everyone! Welcome to Encountering Chinese. Ghostly Tales from Liao Zhai. Today, I'm going to tell you a story called Fox Lady. There was a man named Liu Dongzhou in Laiwu County who, in his early years, served as an assistant magistrate in the grain supervision office in Fenzhou. One day, Liu Dongzhou was sitting alone in his residence when suddenly he heard laughter and chatter in the courtyard, the sounds getting closer. He looked up and saw 4 women entering. One appeared to be around 40 years old, another around 30, a third around 24 or 25, and the last one, a young girl with her hair down. They all stood by Liu Dongzhou's desk, exchanging smiles. Liu Dongzhou, aware that there were many fox spirits in the government office, paid no attention to them. After a while, the young girl with her hair down took out a red silk scarf and playfully tossed it onto Liu Dongzhou's face. Liu Dongzhou picked up the scarf and casually placed it under the window, still ignoring them. The 4 women exchanged smiles again and left. One night shortly thereafter, the eldest woman once again entered Liu Dongzhou's room. She said to him, "My younger sister has a destined connection with you. Please do not reject her." Liu Dongzhou casually agreed, and the woman left. In the blink of an eye, the woman led an unbound-haired young girl into the room, accompanied by a maid. The woman asked the girl to sit beside Liu Dongzhou and said to them, "You two truly make a great couple. Why not get married tonight? Sister, take good care of Mr. Liu. I'll leave now." After the woman departed, Liu Dongzhou carefully examined the young girl and found her incredibly beautiful, so he became intimate with her. Liu Dongzhou inquired about the girl's origin, and she replied, "Though I am not human now, I was originally a human. I used to be the daughter of the former state official. Deceived by a fox, I suffered harm and died, buried in the courtyard of the government office. The fox spirits used magic to revive me, so now I resemble a drifting fox spirit more than a human." Hearing this, Liu Dongzhou reached out to touch the girl's buttocks. Sensing his actions, the girl laughed and said to Liu Dongzhou, "Do you think I have a tail?" She then turned around and jokingly added, "Feel free to touch." From that day onwards, the young girl took up residence in the government office, and every action of hers was accompanied by her little maid who followed closely alongside her. The servants of the Liu family also treated her with the courtesy befitting the young wife of Liu Dongzhou. When the maids and matrons came to pay their respects to the young girl, she would generously reward them with many gifts. One time, on Liu Dongzhou's birthday, many people came to offer their congratulations. Upon a rough calculation, he planned to prepare banquet tables for over 30. Therefore, he needed to hire many chefs. However, only 1 or 2 of the prearranged chefs showed up in the end, which made Liu Dongzhou very angry. Upon learning about this, the young girl said to Liu Dongzhou, "You don't need to worry about this. Since the chefs are not enough, why not just dismiss the 2 who did come?" Although I may not be highly skilled, handling banquets for over 30 tables is not a difficult task for me." Liu Dongjiu, hearing this, turned his worries into joy and quickly sent servants to move fish, meat, vegetables, seasonings, and other items into the inner courtyard. The household servants heard the clattering sounds of knives and spatulas coming from the inner courtyard, non-stop. A table was set up at the door, and the serving servants placed trays on it. In the blink of an eye, the trays were filled with dishes. Dozens of servants were busy back and forth, but the dishes seemed endless. Finally, when the servants came to the inner courtyard for soup dumplings, they heard the young girl saying, "Your master did not ask me to prepare soup dumplings in advance. How can I produce them immediately?" Then she added, "It's all right, I'll borrow some from someone else first." In no time, the girl called for servants to fetch the soup dumplings. Everyone saw over 30 bowls of steaming soup dumplings arranged on the table. After the guests left, the young girl said to Liu Dongjiu, "Take out some money. I need to go repay the person whose soup dumplings I borrowed." Liu Dongjiu hastily sent someone to deliver the money to the rightful owner. The family, puzzled by the loss of the soup dumplings, received an explanation from the messenger, resolving the confusion. One evening, while Liu Dongjiu was drinking, he suddenly thought of the bitter brew wine from his hometown. He mentioned to the young girl his yearning for the local wine, and she offered to fetch it for him. Shortly after, she left the house. In a short while, the girl returned and told Liu Dongjiu, "There's a barrel of bitter brew wine outside, enough for you to enjoy for several days." Upon hearing this, Liu Dongjiu quickly went outside to check and indeed found a barrel of the wine, none other than his hometown's renowned Wengtou Chun wine. After a few days, Liu Dongjiu's wife sent 2 servants to Fenzhou. On the way, one servant said to the other, "I heard that the fox lady rewards servants with a lot of money. If we manage to get a reward this time, I'm going to buy a leather jacket." Unexpectedly, the young girl in Fenzhou government office had already heard this conversation. She told Liu Dongjiu, "The household members sent by your family are about to arrive. That impolite servant is quite irritating. I must discipline him." Early the next morning, the 2 servants arrived in the city. As soon as they entered, the disrespectful servant suddenly felt a headache. Near the government office, the servant's headache intensified, forcing him to clutch his head and groan. When people saw the servant in pain and offered him medicine, Liu Dongjiu smiled and said, "He doesn't need treatment. He will naturally get better in time." Everyone suspected that the servant must have offended the young lady. The servant thought to himself, "I just arrived and haven't even unpacked. How could I offend the young lady?" However, with no place to voice his grievances, he could only kneel and beg for mercy. From behind the curtain, a voice spoke. "You can just call me lady, why add the word fox in front?" The servant suddenly realized his mistake and repeatedly apologized to the girl. The girl behind the curtain continued, "Since you want a leather jacket, how can you be so disrespectful to me?" She then added, Your headache is now gone." As soon as the girl finished speaking, the servant's headache immediately disappeared. He quickly expressed his gratitude and prepared to leave. Suddenly, a package was thrown out from behind the curtain, and the girl said, "This is a lamb's leather jacket, take it." When the servant opened the package, he found 5 taels of silver inside. Liu Dongjiu also inquired about the situation at home, and the servant replied that everything was fine, except that one day they suddenly lost a barrel of Wengtou Chun wine. Liu Dongjiu calculated the date of the loss and realized it was the same evening the girl went to get the wine. The servants began to fear the supernatural powers of the young lady, secretly referring to her as the Holy Immortal. Liu Dongjiu even painted a portrait of the girl. At that time, there was a man named Zhang Daoi serving as the educational administrator in Fenzhou. Upon hearing about the strange occurrences in the Liu household, he visited Liu Dongjiu in the guise of a fellow townsman, expressing a desire to meet the young lady. However, the girl refused to see him. With no other option, Liu Dongjiu reluctantly showed Zhang Daoi her portrait, but unexpectedly, Zhang Daoi took the painting without permission and left. Upon returning to his home, Zhang Daoi hung the portrait and prayed to it daily, saying, "With your appearance and temperament, you could be with anyone. Why do you choose to be with Liu Dongjiu, that old man with white hair? What makes me inferior to Liu Dongjiu? Why won't you see me even once?" The girl, in the government office, suddenly said to Liu Dongjiu, "Zhang Daoi was extremely disrespectful to me. I must give him a little punishment." One day, as Zhang Daoi was praying before the portrait, he suddenly felt as if someone had struck his forehead with a ruler. Instantly, his head began to ache as if it were about to split open. Terrified, Zhang Daoi quickly sent the portrait back to Liu Dongjiu. When Liu Dongjiu deliberately inquired about the reason, the messenger concealed the truth and did not speak the whole truth. Liu Dongjiu chuckled and said, "Did your master's forehead not hurt?" Unable to hide the truth any longer, the messenger finally revealed what had happened. After some time, Liu Dongjiu's son-in-law, Qi Sheng, came and wanted to meet the young lady. However, she declined to see him. Despite repeated requests from Qi Sheng to meet her, Liu Dongjiu said to the girl, "He's not an outsider, why won't you see him?" She replied, "If my son-in-law comes to see me, I must give him a gift. But his aspirations are too high, and I estimate that my abilities cannot satisfy his demands. That's why I am reluctant to meet him." Later, when Qi Sheng insisted on meeting the girl, she reluctantly agreed to meet him 10 days later. On the appointed day, Qi Sheng entered the room, bowed to the girl through the curtain, exchanged a few pleasantries, and glimpsed the girl's appearance behind the curtain. Unable to scrutinize her closely, Qi Sheng excused himself and left. After walking a few steps, he couldn't resist turning back to look. The girl said, "Son-in-law turned back." After saying this, she burst into laughter, the sound resembling the call of an owl. Startled, Qi Sheng's legs went weak, and he stumbled as if he had lost his soul. After leaving, He sat for a long time before finally regaining his composure. Speaking to himself, he said, "The laughter just now was as thunderous as a thunderclap. I even felt like my body wasn't my own." Shortly after, a maid, following the girl's orders, presented Qi Sheng with 20 taels of silver. Upon receiving it, Qi Sheng said to the maid, "The young lady and my father-in-law live together. Doesn't she know that I've always been extravagant and not used to spending such small sums?" Hearing the maid's response, the girl told Liu Dongjou, "I've known he's like this. Last time, when I found the money at home was gone, I went to Kaifeng with my companions. However, we discovered that Kaifeng was submerged in water, and the silver we had hidden in the Kaifeng warehouse was also submerged. We could only salvage a small amount of silver individually. But with such a small amount of silver, how can it satisfy his insatiable demands? Besides, even if I could give him more, his fortune is too meager to bear it." The woman seemed to know everything in advance, so whenever Liu Dongjou encountered difficult problems, he would consult with her, and they could always find effective solutions. One day, while sitting and chatting with Liu Dongjou, the girl suddenly looked up at the sky and exclaimed loudly, "Disaster is about to strike. What should we do?" Surprised, Liu Dongjou asked about the well-being of his family. The woman replied, "Everyone else is fine, but your second son is a cause for concern. I sense that in the near future, this place will become a battlefield. You should quickly request an assignment to go far away to avoid this calamity." Liu Dongjou heeded her advice, requested permission from his superiors, and was assigned to escort provisions to Yunnan and Guizhou. The journey was long, and when colleagues heard about it, they expressed concern, but the girl congratulated him. Shortly afterward, Fenzhou fell into rebellion, and the entire city was occupied by bandits. Liu Dongjou's second son happened to arrive from Shandong, caught up in the turmoil, and tragically lost his life. After the fall of Fenzhou, all officials in the city, big and small, perished, except for Liu Dongjou, who was spared due to his business trip. When the rebellion was quelled, Liu Dongjou returned. However, he became entangled in a major case and faced disciplinary action, causing the family to quickly fall into poverty. Facing various extortions from those in power, Liu Dongjou felt hopeless and contemplated suicide. The girl advised him, saying, "Don't worry, there's still 3,000 taels of silver under the bed. We can use it to get by." Delighted, Liu Dongjou asked, "Where did you manage to obtain so much money?" The girl replied, "Unclaimed things abound in this world. Is there a need to steal such a small amount of money?" In the end, relying on the girl's schemes, Liu Dongjou overcame the difficulties, returned to his hometown, and the girl followed him to Laiwu. Several years later, the girl suddenly departed, leaving behind a wrapped package containing a few items. When the family opened the package, they found a small mourning flag, about 2 inches long, which hung on the door during a funeral. Everyone thought it was an ominous sign, and indeed, not long after, Liu Dongjou passed away from illness. Alright. That's all for today's ghostly tale. Fox Lady. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please also encourage everyone to comment and share more. We'll see you in the next episode.